Hi, Tom. Six. I think you have hopefully materials in front of you. We've got a pretty full agenda, but we'll try to march through it as quickly as possible. Personally, I don't want to leave this cool room, but that's all up to you as to whether you want to get out in the heat or not, but we'll just try to enjoy it as long as we can. We do have a quorum, so we're in session. At this time, I'll call for public comment on an item that's not on our agenda. If anybody wants to make some comment. Dale?
I would. I'd like to welcome Brian Vincent to the TIRZ Board. I'm sure
you
were thinking about doing that.
Me to it, so go ahead.
But I'm ecstatic that Brian is on the board, and looking forward to seeing progress made in all the areas that we are always working towards trying to make progress on.
Are you saying we just blame him on it? We got someone new to blame?
Yes.
That's good. Okay, thank you, Dale. Appreciate that comment. And welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Any other comments from anyone? Okay, we will approve the minutes of our April 26, 2022 meeting. You should have those in front of you. And if you've reviewed those, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve.
Jason makes a motion. Dudra seconds the motion. Any comments or questions on those minutes? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Okay, we will go to item 4. Update on the council action, city council action on our recommendations a number of months ago. Dudra and I we were present in the city council meeting. And so at this time, I'll ask Mr. James to bring us an update on it.
Yeah, just briefly, I know some of you are aware, you all made a recommendation, like the chair said, months ago.
5 months ago.
The council finally took that up. Well, one of the 2 recommendations you all made, which was funding 6 south projects with north funds. The city council did reject that. And so those south projects were not funded. And council seemed pretty adamant that they did not want to, at this point in time, use north money for south projects.
Okay, so let me interrupt you, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to go on record, and I want all of you to know, and people the council members that supported us, and the council members that did not. And the ones that supported us were Tommy Hebert, Tommy Thompson, and Harry Thomas. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
Those 3? Those council members that were opposed to us was Brenda Gunter, Lucy Gonzalez, Karen Hesse Smith, and Larry Miller. I want everybody to know that. Okay? Go ahead.
And so the second item that you all had recommended was a general policy change, not just those specific projects, but a general change to the way the funds are split in the future, basically splitting them 50-50 north and south. The council has not taken that item up yet, but given the discussion at their recent meeting, my suspicion is that they would not be supportive of that. And so we'll have to see where that goes moving forward. But at this point, that seems to be the direction, is that they want to keep the north-south split the way it is.
I'd like to voice my opinion, and this is my last meeting, my term is up. I would have been okay, and if I hadn't been having problems with my leg, and I think it was shut down so fast that it really didn't matter. But I certainly would have been, was supportive of finishing those projects in the south, I think to the tune of $263,000. But as I voiced at our last meeting, I am adamantly against joining the TIRZ. My constituents do not want them joined, and I certainly understand why. As I said before, I don't think I've seen where the TIRZ leans toward historic significance. Up north, there is no historic significance, so I feel like all of the North's money completely would be spent, and they would be left out in the cold. So even as a citizen or not a member, when I go off, I stand with the North. I do not want them joined.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I have a question. Why did it take the city council 5 months to keep these folks in limbo? I cannot understand that. We owed them an answer, because this, as a board, we voted on this issue in February.
No.
Now, where did our recommendation go? Was it on your desk for 4 months, and then you got it to them in 1 month, or how did that work? I want to know. For
Yeah,
5
well,
months.
Sure, it was, it was not on my desk. It was
I
on
know
staff.
it wasn't. I'm
Sure,
being
but
facetious.
just to get that out there.
Yeah.
We had submitted it for the council meeting 1 or 2 meetings after your meeting. It got delayed at the request of the mayor. She wanted to hold some town hall meetings, which were
right.
held, I believe 3 in total. And so once that third meeting wrapped up, and I can't remember the date, but I think it was either late June, early
A
July.
couple of weeks ago.
And so once that was done, then it was okayed to move forward, and that's the justification for why.
How many town hall meetings did they hold?
3, I believe.
3 town hall meetings, so you're saying it took them 3 months to hold 3 town hall meetings?
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
They held 1 meeting and then wanted to hold a second one, and then after that one, there was a delay of some time, and again, it was proposed to be brought back, and
Well,
then a third meeting was requested.
I can't even imagine keeping these 5 or 6 individuals in limbo for 5 months. These are folks that applied in the process that we've got that's pretty arduous. It's not an easy process.
Sure.
So they went through the process seeking our approval for some monies to improve their properties. They were willing to make themselves vulnerable, put their own money into the projects, and they were put on hold for 5 months. I cannot even imagine that. That's untenable and inexcusable on the part of the city council. And I don't know who's taking notes to this meeting, but you can quote me verbatim on everything that I say today. But that's just inexcusable to keep those people in limbo for 5 months. And I don't know how many of them would have even taken the money after 5 months. If I had made the application on some of these things and I'd been put on hold for 5 months, I'd say, you got to be kidding me. I'm ready to renovate my property and get on with it and make a contribution to the city. And you're keeping me on hold for 5 months? Ridiculous. What kind of communication's been made with these individuals on these applications? What's happened to them? Has anyone apologized to them? Anyone called them and say, we're sorry that we held you in limbo for 5 months?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think they are aware of the denial, but we can definitely confirm that, but I don't believe there's been any.
Okay, well, I want, if Mr. Fox or someone, I want the names of the individuals. I've got the list of the applications, but I don't have the names of the individuals. I want their names, and I want their addresses, and I'm going to write each one of them a personal letter apologizing to them. Because this is a direct reflection on this commission. You don't do that to people. 5 months?
I would like that too.
I want someone to say that we are sorry and that our city council couldn't get their act together and get you an answer. You know, whether they vote up or down, that's the city council's prerogative. I don't agree with them at all, but that's their prerogative. But to keep people on hold for 5 months, it's ridiculous. So I want those names, and I'm going to write them a letter of an apology and just say, we're sorry. The process is unexplainable.
Sure, we
But
can
that's what I'm
definitely get
gonna
that to
do.
you.
Okay, so they shot us down on those applicants' request, but they haven't taken up on the funding issue. And I think based on what they did last week, that's a moot point. I think that's basically a moot point. So if you'll do that, I would appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any other members have comments?
I just got a question for you, John. You don't mind answering for me? I've been doing some research, getting caught up. Kind of it's been pretty easy here lately, kind of see what's going on. But prior to that, I mean, I know this has been a big heated controversy, but how long has this been going on? I mean, it just seems like here recently, within the last 8 to 12 months, that we've talked about either mixing these funds or not mixing these funds. But is this something that's always been there? It's just now getting brought up, or has this been an issue in the past?
I can't really speak to how much it's been discussed in the past, but since the founding of the TIRZ in, I think, 2007, 2008, there has been the north-south split. Now, I just always, when I say that, I want to clarify to everyone, there are not 2 TIRZ zones. It's one zone under the state law and establishing zones, so it is one zone. But in our policies for the zone, the city ordinance establishing this zone, it identified 2 sub-areas within the zone in which the funds from each area stay for projects within that area. So it's effectively two separate areas that have their own funding. There is in that policy a provision that says with a supermajority of this board and a supermajority of the council, they can approve using funds from one area in the other area, which is this recent issue we're talking about.
Has that ever come up in the past since
Yes,
it started?
I believe, and I'm only aware of one project. At the last council meeting, the mayor said there were either 2 or 3 projects that have been done in the past under that.
And they did get approved for the funds for.
Yeah, one I know was the downtown library, so the idea was that benefits a larger
see.
area.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
Yeah, but Brian, in the 4 or 5, or help me, John, I've been sitting on this board for 5 years, 6 years, it seems like a lifetime. But I have not sat in a meeting where we've talked about combining those funds or splitting them up or rebalancing. Never have until recently. The reason we have is that the southern zones run out of money.
Yeah, northern has so much.
We have no money.
Sure.
And you understand why that
Yes,
is
sir.
that?
Yep.
You know what's behind that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the flip side of that is that now the north side is
Has
sitting on
flush.
about $2 million.
Right.
And so the board's
Well,
opinion is.
2 million versus, what is it, $33, or maybe that's
Well,
updated.
we'll see that on the next item.
Yeah.
It's
But
not
I'm-
that
but I'm-
small, but it's.
Well, and it's, Brian, you said you understood why. It's because of the north has Walmart, and downtown you have the churches, the Standard Times, the First
Well,
Time.
A lot of
Nation.
nonprofits.
So,
It-
a lot of nonprofits.
But it was set up, though, as I understand, originally with the Shannon system and their property.
And they came out of
they
it,
put
they
all their
became
property
nonprofit.
in non-taxable, so they're not
Yeah, that's
contributing a
what
dime to our
That's what I
taxes.
figured, yeah, that's taking a big.
So that eliminated our basic funding for the southern tier. So
Yep.
that's the only reason it came up recently, is that we had some of these projects, 4 or 5 of them, 6 of them, that we didn't have any money
And
fund, so.
I felt like that would have been a good compromise.
Me too,
I do think that don't lose hope as the TIRZ Board changes, as the city council changes. I've heard that this issue has come up several times about joining, and it will continue to come up. So I would say, don't lose hope.
Well,
I just want to be clear to people listening, though, that never has anyone, including this board, recommended a full joining where it
No.
would just be one fund. It was always still keeping a north and south, just splitting the funds instead of what's earned in the north and what's earned in the south in the south. Taking it, combining it, but still splitting it 50/50.
Gotcha.
So the north would always have their designated funds, the south would still have designated funds. It's just the split would be.
And we kept talking about in our discussion, and I don't have much of a memory anymore, but if I remember correctly, we talked about rebalancing it.
Yes.
You know, if we use some monies from the north, or from the south to the north, we rebalance it every year to where there's equity
It's back in there.
back in there, so.
Okay.
But
Well, and I didn't
anyway.
want to take too much of the meeting to explain it
No,
to you.
that's
I
fine.
just had a
yeah.
couple of questions on there.
But let me say this, and Dudra, I appreciate her comments. But for us as a board to be loyal to our strategic mission, something's got to be done. Because we're gradually becoming a moot commission. There's no reason for us to meet.
Meeting there.
And so that's what we've got to deal with.
Do y'all tell the councilman why? I mean, we come here, we listen to these people, and I don't see why council would ever shoot down our ideas. I mean, I think we're educated enough to feel what is appropriate and what's right for this town. And I don't see why council would ever shoot us down. I mean, I know they should, like, there could be second guesses, but I mean, you know, we hear these people, they don't. I mean, they just throw that paper inside, this is what TIRZ wanted to do, and for them to, 5 of them say, no, I don't think that's a good idea, I mean.
Well, I will say that 95% of what you all recommend, they do approve. And so I don't want anyone to think that they're always second guessing this board, because most of the time they do. This north-south thing just has some political implications that make it somewhat controversial.
This city has lived with that for 70 or 80 years. You're talking about north versus south, and it's a cancer we've got that's metastasized, and that's another issue. But to bring up, Justin, what you said, these 3 members of the city council that voted for us, they reflected some of the exact comments you made of respecting us in our decision-making process and our thought process, which I deeply appreciated. The other 4 did not reflect that at all. Okay, anything else on this item?
Nope.
Yeah, I just want to make one quick comment. I support you 100% in writing the letters to the city
Well-
council, and that, I was glad you brought that up, because
Well-
that needs to be done,
We owe it.
yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. I guess we're through with item 4. We better keep moving along. Number 5, the financial report.
So I'll just go through this briefly. You see this every month, so I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but this is the financial report as of June 30th. You can see the beginning zone balance, and then all of the designated expenditures, including the committed funds, those 568,000 committed funds. Those are projects that have been approved but not yet, they haven't been completed, so we haven't reimbursed those projects yet. And then, of course, the Chadburn Street project is another big expenditure there. That's also money that's waiting to be spent.
John, help me if I could. Will we be through our commitment on this Chadburn Street deal in about how many years?
It's an 8-year commitment, and I believe we're in year 5.
Yeah.
And so it's about 3 more years. I'm
So-
not sure exactly the
so-
date.
Yeah, so Brian, you can see for the next 3 or 4 years or whatever, we're gonna always be drained in the south, and that's why I say we become it's a moot point that we can help anyone,
And just as a
Yeah.
reminder, that takes about, not about, but exactly 50% of the yearly revenue in the south tiers is what goes toward the Chadburn project. And so that leaves, and I'll clarify this on the next slide, but that leaves officially an available amount in the south of $33,000. However, this is something that Mr. Brown had asked for last time. Just last week, the city council approved a project for $15,900. It has not yet been reflected. It usually takes, that doesn't get submitted as a budget amendment until after the city council minutes are approved. So that usually takes up to a month or two before it reflects on the actual balance sheet. But subtracting that, that leaves our balance in the south at about $17,600.
What was that was approved?
That was on South Oaks, I believe, Concho Christmas LLC, which we went into a whole deal. It's not affiliated with Concho Christmas, that's just the name of the LLC, but it's basically it's down near the museum area. It's a project, an art studio. It's an old dilapidated building that they're going to completely reface and remodel.
So now we're down to about $17,600.
Yeah, and as you know, we would normally have a new cycle for grant applications. Actually, typically it would kick off in May or June. But as has happened the last 3 or 4 years at least, because we've expended all of our South funds in the first cycle, we won't have a second cycle this year. So the next cycle for the South won't be until probably November, once our new budget year.
I think I saw, going through some of these notes and minutes of meetings, that I had made a comment to you that I didn't want to see any applications from the South until we have real money to spend. I'm not going to go through
Right.
this again.
Right, and so that's why we'll be
with-
waiting till
With
November.
some good people that come up here and are expending a lot of their time and some of their money on a project and make an application to us, and we can't help them.
Yeah,
And we need to, folks that come to your office or whatever and start that process, they need to be told that until further notice, there's not much can be done.
let me clarify that. Are you suggesting even in November, we should have somewhere around 250,000
In the South,
in the South? That-
well, if we have the 250, no, I'm not saying that don't ever, I'm just saying I want to see some money
Yeah,
in the South where we've got some money to do something with. Because we're not going to promise people,
sure.
and we're sure not going to keep them on the line for 5 months with a decision. So that's what I was meaning.
So, John, in November, if there is 200,000 plus, those people 5 months ago that brought their application, can they get first, do they have to go apply again and write down everything?
Well, they will
Or
have
can
to
we-
reapply, but they could submit the exact same packet they had, or I'd have to check with legal on this, but if they just sent us a letter saying, I would like my application from last time to be reconsidered in the new cycle,
Yeah,
we
let's
should be
save
able to
them
do that.
I don't
Yeah.
think they should have to go pick up that paper and
Yeah.
let's just help them out.
Sure.
I mean, I've been getting a lot of feedback. They're like, man, Jason, the city of San Angelo is so hard to work with. It's just like they don't want to help us, and then they make us do the application all over again, and, it's discouraging.
Yeah,
So I think we should email them and say, hey, you know what? There's gonna be X amount of money. We're gonna have real money for the South. And we want y'all to just throw y'all's, name in the hat again, and we wanna help y'all this time.
There'll probably be some update on the building budget, because construction
Yeah.
costs have probably increased or.
And of course, there's probably 2 or 3 of them that say, forget it.
I have heard from some that they're just ready to move forward with the project and they
Yeah,
don't want to
so-
wait again. And as always, we will likely have, as in most cases, we'll likely have more projects than we have funding. So you'll still be in the position of, like last time we had 14 projects, you recommended approval of either 7 or 8. Just because that was all the money available, so that'll be the case again. And to the extent you want to give preference to those people who've already applied in the past, that's really up to the board. In the past, we have not usually used that as a criteria to judge projects, but you could
Well,
clearly do
because
that.
of the way these people were treated, and I appreciate Jason's comments, I'd sure give them preference.
I'll move on to the,
Number 6,
the South budget real quickly.
oh, the South budget,
Um,
yeah, okay.
Started out with 2.4 million, now we have about just over $2 million available in the North.
North.
Just to point out that there's some processes going on with staff, we're looking at a number of different projects. You've talked about a 4th Street project, which is technically in the north, just up here. We're looking at some other streetscape, sidewalk, street lighting, other public improvement projects. We've talked to you about a sidewalk project. The Concho Valley Transit has put in a couple of bus stops, and they put in a short little sidewalk right in front of this bus stop. But there's 2 or 3, and then there are sidewalks about 2 blocks to the north of that and 4 blocks to the south. So what we're looking at is a project to connect all of those sidewalks so that people can get to that bus stop on a sidewalk. But all that to say, we're looking at a number of projects to look at ways we can use that $2 million to benefit the north side.
All right, here's the problem I got with all that. They're gonna have to have town hall meetings to get the approval of the folks in the north to do that?
Well, I would defer to the city council if they choose to do that, but we have not typically done that. It's typically been a project we bring to you all, you recommend, and then the city council approves.
I would be hard pressed to approve that, but that's just neither here nor there. We'll cross that when we see it. But I can't tell you how many times when the mayor appointed me to this position, how many times she told me and continues to tell me, make grants to entities that are going to increase the tax base. Okay, I get that. I don't think street improvements, sidewalks, planter boxes, street lights pay taxes. I can understand on a strategic, long-term view that improves the neighborhood and might encourage people to make investments along that corridor, but philosophically, I'm not there with that deal yet.
Sure. And that's the idea of, if you improve the street, businesses will then be encouraged.
Well, how much of
bring
this,
in
how much
business.
money have we spent on this South Chadburn project? And can you tell me the businesses that have opened up because of that? I can't think of one.
Yeah, I can't.
So, philosophically, and I don't disagree with wanting to improve going north and whatever, but folks that are opposed to all of that stuff, they need to understand that those monies are coming out of that $2 million and they're not going to be available for businessmen and women in the northern part that want to improve their businesses. They can go out and look at the new sidewalks and the brick pavers and the planter boxes and the street lights and say, well, there's your money.
Well, I can tell you our intent would not be to recommend projects that would use all of that money, probably not even half of the money, because we want to leave that available for the businesses.
Jim, Mr. Cummins,
That's an ongoing thing we've had for 30 years.
Is that not basically what that last town hall meeting, 25-minute meeting was about, to talk about the streetscapes
They were
up
starting
north?
to
I
talk
believe
about that.
that's
Yeah,
what it was
They were beginning
about.
to talk about that. And, but you're right.
I feel the North is gonna see what happens. I just think, this is what I get. The North says they feel like they're like the redhead step-head child of San Angelo. And, I think they really just came up with this landscape into like, okay, we're gonna get that and we're gonna be happy. But you're like, it's not gonna create jobs or
No,
anything.
no.
It's gonna make it look nicer, and I don't mind that. I mean,
Well-
my business and all that, they're all up north, and
Sure.
it's just,
So the question is, who came up with it? Was it the mayor or was it the entire city council?
Came
it
with,
was the 3 that didn't, vote for ours.
yeah.
That's all I had for the financial report.
Okay.
And there's no need to take action on that, it's just a report from staff.
Okay, all right, well, let's move to item 6. Are you up to this?
I'm up for it. Good afternoon, board. See, I got the
Hey,
memo.
you got the
I
memo.
got the
There
pink
you
shirt,
go.
blue
You got it.
jacket, khaki
Hey.
pant memo.
You look sharp.
See, I'm already ahead of the
There
ball
you go.
game.
All right, you're doing good.
Nolan Sosa, Economic Development. I'm going to present on 2 requests to extend TIRZ agreements. The first is with Twofold Journey Properties, LLC. And Miss Lara with Twofold Journey Properties, LLC has 3 active TIRZ agreements for properties that are located on West 4th Street. It's That same area, but it's actually 3 separate TIRZ projects.
Yeah,
In a previous board meeting, we did approve an extension through August of 2023. She has also requested an extension through January of 2023 for 124 West 4th and 128 West 4th. As you all know, there are a number of challenges right now with any construction project. There's supply chain issues, there's the permitting process that she's trying to navigate. Everybody's doing projects right now, so you have contractor scheduling issues that are impacted by those supply chain issues. So she is doing her best to keep her project on schedule, but she's run into some obstacles, and we want to accommodate her to the degree that we can. So staff today are recommending that we do approve an extension through January of 2023 for her 2 remaining TIRZ projects. Those would be,
let me ask you this question. When she first came in to us and made some requests for these, you know, first and foremost, I was very impressed with her. She had good planning, very organized, very strategic. But have we inspected, how much work has she done? I've driven up and down there in front of her properties looking, and I couldn't really tell that.
well, we actually
I
have
didn't-
her here to answer the
Come in
questions
here.
more specifically.
I'm glad you're here. And I want you to know I was very impressed with your presentation.
Well, I plan on fulfilling my promises, trust me.
Okay.
I'm 90% finished on the 124th West 4th, the first grant granted until August the 2023. I'm 90% on the other 2. On the second one, which is stairs, and we're really kind of stuck on that one right now because we're trying to get proper stairs in there, and we're stuck with permitting, we're stuck with having to come back and engineer seals and stuff like that, and that's all lengthy in itself. I've actually had to reach out to an engineer in Dallas
Bless you.
and to find out to do's and don'ts. And then we've had, and you should know this, Mr. Cummings, as well as anybody. By the way, I'm Lori Laura. I'm with Twofold Journey Properties. I own the business by myself. I'm an independent businesswoman. And so with my husband as a spiritual supporter, should I say. Anyway, the first setback was I had a spinal cord injury a year ago, and I'm barely still trying to recover from that. And it's taken a lot. I've had to travel the state of Texas looking for help. And days that I can get up and walk and days that I quite can't. And at just 48 years of age, that's kind of a...
Yeah.
Anyway, that in itself is neither here nor there. Of course, everybody has COVID as their setback, and it truly is a setback. Supply issue, we've had trouble getting suppliers to get the supplies here. Permitting is kind of a little bit of a sticker right now, but we're trying to work through it because I want to do everything that's right, but at the same time that's necessary versus unnecessary. And I have painted the building. I have installed new windows in the building. I have had Mr. Pfluger happens to own Southwest Orient Properties. At the time, though, no one knew who owned the land right outside my doors in the north side. No one, and by the way, I'm the first street. I'm part of the north side TIRZ program, and I'm supportive of being fair about funding because this meant a lot to me in itself. Anyway, the north side in the tax records said state of Texas. That's what it said. That's who it said owned that land. And you look at Hartman Roofing, they have fencing in the back. And I thought, well, that's easy. They got the same permission to fence the state, and that says state of Texas too. And so when I applied for my TIRZ initially for facade improvements, which included fencing to keep some of the vagrancy and to deter some of that, and to also improve the look of that area, because I'm right behind Palmer, I'm right behind Hartman and Canes. And, that was an eyesore. If I had before and after pictures, I'd present them to you now of what it used to look like. Had graffiti, yellow, now it's all white, black trim, painted and everything. I have a new roof. I have new skylights. Those are the things you can't see because, of course, they're on top, and I'm not going to get up there to take pictures. The second one was just stairs. The one I'm requesting extension was stairs and awnings. That's where we're stuck in permits because of engineering seals and such as that. So I'm having to work through that. The 128th was we had property discrepancies, and we found out Mr. Pfluger owned that land. Okay? That was after the fact that I had requested funding. But we've come up with a solution just here recently to still be able to fulfill the TIRZ incentive that I requested. Instead of putting permanent fencing, since it does belong to Mr. Pfluger, and I have requested permission to fence on it, and even though we have a contract agreement for me to use the land, I wanted to make sure it's okay. and he has not responded to make sure that was okay, because I have an actual lease of a segment of that land, because I didn't want to do anything without his consent, permission, I didn't want to be liable. So I created a lease agreement with Mr. Pfluger. With that being said, in section 6 of the lease agreement, it says I can make improvements. I'm not going to make improvements if I don't ask him first. And I have not got his welcome attention on that yet. And so with that being said, we came up with an alternative and have portable fencing. So I'm going to still fulfill the facade and make it really nice, but with something that's portable, so when he goes, no, no, I can easily withdraw it and say, okay, we're done. So I'll still be able to, and only use it as needed, like when I have an event or such as that, I can put it right back up, take it right back down, and that way it's pleasing to everybody. And it's not circumnavigating Mr. Pfluger or anything like that. But like I said, that came up after the fact. The other thing, we did get the brick in to start bricking the lower half. I just spoke to Mike at Intertel this week again, because I did not get another response from AFP in their second set of quotes for my building to be fire and sprinkled. I did not get a response back. And so I went and reached out to Intertel. And so Mike Estes came to see the second building on 128 to help with the sprinkler system that was approved in that incentive. Mm-hmm. And again, prices have skyrocketed 25 to 30%. So now I'm having to I'm having to readdress, because what we were initially quoted back then during COVID, the dollar amounts have changed significantly. So now I'm actually going to be out of that pocket versus what incentive will supply back to me. I'm going to still have to come up with an extra out of mine. So that's where we are in that. It's going to look amazing. Just have a little faith in me. And I am dealing with some really, really serious industrial part of town there. And that 4th Street is a nightmare, as we all know. Yeah. It's a broken neck. It has not even a curb. There's no curbing there, period. I think it's the only street that doesn't have curbing. And we are at the actual beginning of the north side. So I happened to sneak in right before the freeway. So I know it seems like I'm asking for a mother may I, but I am. And I am going to fulfill the actual.
Well, let me state, I was so impressed with your presentations when you came in,
yes,
because
sir.
I mean, I drove back and forth and I thought, what is she doing?
Crazy,
what is she doing? But I was impressed with your applications and what you're wanting to do, so I began to get impatient.
I bet you
wanting
were.
to see it,
So am I.
because you're a pioneer.
Yes.
On that street, getting some things done. So it's just my impatience.
And
because
I understand that.
But I was so encouraged by what you're wanting to do. So I want to encourage you. I don't want to.
No, I
So
understand.
I want you to know I was very impressed with you, but I'm anxious to.
Oh, me too.
see
I'm
it.
anxious too. And I've also, let me let y'all know what happened in the interim too. The building downstairs that I leased to Salvation Army, okay, it was leased by a graphic company for 20 years. They left in July after 20 years. He retired at 85 years of age. Salvation Army was needing a place to move out because they sold their property. They needed a place to do their baling. I don't know if y'all are aware, they take the textiles that are holes, dirty, that we donate, the unusable clothes that they get from donations, unfortunately, they take them, launder them, and bale them and sell them per pound for their missionary support. Mm-hmm. So I went in and installed 3-phase for them, because it takes 3-phase. I installed 3-phase for them in my building in order to get their baler working, and now they rent that lower section so they can continue with their textile business and keep their mission support going on that end. So that also happened in interim.
That's good. Well, bless you.
Well, I'm trying.
You're doing good. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
Thank you.
Okay. Is this an action item on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve these extensions.
I make a motion to approve.
Tom makes the motion. Okay, and Tony seconds. Any comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any approved? You are approved. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Did you call for item 7 yet? Or
Well, do we have a second?
oh, B. Okay.
I was thinking to say
That's one way to do it.
yeah. You had a hard time getting a motion on that one. Yeah, go ahead, you're up.
So the second item on item 6B, is considering and approving an extension for JKLS property, DBA Reyna's Tacos. So their deadline to complete their improvements was March of 2022. And due to some of these same challenges that we're seeing in this first project, they have also requested a 6-month extension for their project. And I think we have Jeff Padilla here, right? To kind of speak to some of the challenges that they faced in their project and how a 6-month extension could benefit them as well.
All right. Yes, sir.
So Jeff Padilla, we own the property, not the actual business, the Reyna's Tacos. But we have some concrete work that we were approved for and garage doors. I've purchased, I think it was 7 or 8 properties while I've had this building. So we've kind of been busy doing those. And then the concrete work, I'm having an issue with contractors because where we're trying to do the concrete work, there is also a city sidewalk. And so trying to get a contractor with the city to see how we do this work and keep that city sidewalk still accessible. We're having a hard time getting feedback, I guess, from the city permit on that. And that's really the biggest holdup. The garage doors are ordered, but because of, I guess, I don't know what factory delays, they're not here yet, because I think I ordered them, 7 months ago. But so those can be installed, but the concrete work, we're still at a hiccup. So I hired a contractor, my concrete contractor, and he is talking to the city. So I delegated it just to him. And it sounds like I'm probably going to have to change contractors because it's just not getting done.
John, is there anything that we can do from our perspective or our legal?
Didn't know if it's
to
engineering
work with the city people and stand in the gap for him and help him?
Yeah, I would suggest maybe contacting Aaron Vanoy, who coordinates those kind of development reviews. He's in our Development Services Department over in permits. But because, it could be engineering, it could be permits, they're not knowing what the holdup is.
The concrete, that work, it's easy. It's just that it adjoins a city-owned sidewalk. And actually, it stops at that property. But from what we've heard is they want to continue that sidewalk. So that's where we're at a hiccup. And that's all I have as far as that. It's not a large project. It was just the concrete work and 2 garage doors.
Well,
So if it was supposed to be done in May and it's a 6-month extension, does that only extend it to September?
We could extend through September, or this board could recommend to extend 6 months from today, if they'd like.
So if everything goes according, that project should be finished before 6 months, correct? I mean, you think?
Right, before 6 months.
So-
From 6 months from today?
Yes.
From
So that's what I'm saying, I saw it, it came in due, but
Because I think it'd take, if we started today, it would take a couple months just permitting.
well, can we give him a little extra time? I would entertain a motion
I would entertain a motion to approve.
to approve for an additional 6 months from today.
from 6 months from
From
today?
today? Okay.
I'll
That's-
second.
That's the motion, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's approved, additional 6 months from today. Yeah, I know it.
I mean, that is,
Yeah. Okay,
Now
you
it's
should
my
have
turn.
an easy one, this item. But go ahead.
Yeah, item 7 is consideration of amendment to the TIRZ Board bylaws regarding the time for meetings.
Yeah.
As you know, I think it was just at the most recent meeting, we moved the meeting time from 3 to 3:30. That was largely for Ms. Butler, who sometimes had a problem getting here by 3 due to her work schedule. But now, as she mentioned earlier, this will be her last meeting. As you know, we have term limits for boards and commissions at the city, and she was up for reappointment, but she's not eligible because of term limits. And so we weren't able to get her reappointed. Anyway, long story short, with her off the commission or the board, if I recall correctly, no one else had a problem with the 3 o'clock time, so we're just throwing it back to you all. Do we want to go back to 3 o'clock instead of 3:30 now?
Do we need that in the form of a motion, or let's just do it?
We would need a motion to formally
All right.
amend the bylaws.
Easy motion. Motion to move back to 3 o'clock.
I'll make a motion to bring it back to 3 o'clock.
Okay, Tom, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jason. I know it's difficult. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to move our meeting times back to 3 o'clock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let it be done. All right. Keep rolling.
Item 8,
Okay.
this is a consideration of possible action regarding amendments to the TIRZ incentive policies. As you know, you all recommended a number of somewhat substantial changes to the incentive policies probably 6 months ago. At your last meeting, I think it was the last meeting, you heard a presentation from the fire marshal who had recommended some changes regarding fire sprinklers, and we're recommending a couple of other changes. But
Good.
so I'll just go through those quickly. One is moving fire sprinklers to the high priority category, which is what was recommended, and I think that's what we heard from you all in the discussion,
Right.
that you were comfortable with that. In the north area, we had some discussion at a previous meeting. Currently, our policy says like parking lot repaving or paving of parking lots can only be done as part of a larger project. The discussion was there are a number of properties on the north side that have old gravel or caliche parking lots. And so maybe, especially since we have $2 million in funding, maybe allowing some of those properties to do a paving of their parking lot as a standalone project. And so our recommendation is to amend to allow that, now
Okay.
only in the north, not the south. And then,
Why only in the north?
well, we have a number of other items that are different for the north and south, so that's not necessarily unusual. But part of it is there is so little money in the south that we really want to focus on major improvements. And we wouldn't recommend funding like repaving a parking lot in the south just because of lack of funds. But in the north, we are more comfortable with that.
Well, if we ever get adequate funding in the south, that we can revisit that as well.
Absolutely.
because-
But what if we have a project in the south that's pretty good, but has parking lot in there that may throw them over? Why couldn't we still have it as a separate standalone project? Like if we wanted to approve doing building facade in the south, but didn't want to approve their parking lot.
You can always pick and choose. In
Okay.
fact, you all recommend, if they've asked for the maximum 75,000, but we've got a lot of good projects, you can recommend
Okay.
only funding this but not this. So we had one last time where they were asking for facade and fire sprinkler, and you all chose to fund the fire sprinkler but not the facade just
Gotcha,
because of lack of
gotcha.
funds. So
Okay.
that's always an option.
Okay.
And then the final one, I think it's the final one, in the north area, eliminating the application cycles. As it is right now, we usually have 2 cycles a year where people can request incentive grants. That usually opens in November and then May. The discussion at the previous meeting was, what if for north projects, we got rid of the cycle that north properties could ask for money at any time? The reason we originally did cycles was, like we talked about in the south, we have more requests than we have funding. So we wanted to get them all at one time so that we could compare them all at once, comparing this project to that project. But with this much money in the north, the idea is they could apply at any time. And so you all would consider maybe at every meeting projects that had been submitted over the last
Okay,
month or
so
two.
we're doing that for the north to help encourage applications,
Exactly.
you know?
I recall the mayor suggesting that needed to be done.
She suggested that at a town hall, and I believe someone at
city
this
council, she
meeting
did.
also, that had come up at a previous discussion at this board. And so let me just double check. Okay, if there are any other questions about that, I do have another slide
Okay.
of some more changes. The other discussion that you all had read, and I think Mr. Brown had recommended something at the last meeting, reducing the matching funds, and 2 or 3 ideas were thrown out. This is our recommendation, but you can do what you want. I think one member actually recommended getting rid of matching funds in the north altogether. And staff would be supportive of that as well. But what we've recommended is increasing the limit on not requiring a match from $10,000 to $25,000. So any project under $25,000 would not require a match. And then also changing the match on those projects over $25,000 from 25% down to 10%.
Again, we're trying to encourage applicants.
Right. What we heard at one of the town hall meetings was there are a lot of small mom and pop businesses in the north. And so some of them would like to make improvements, but they couldn't even come up with a 25% match on a small project. And so either eliminating or reducing that match might help some of those small businesses to get into the TIRZ funding cycle.
Right.
John, when that is changed with no cycle for north and a project comes to you, how long is it gonna be? Is it gonna drag out 5 months, or is it gonna be pretty immediate?
No, we would probably use a similar cycle. Right now, when projects come in on the cycle, so like in November, we open it for a month, usually, and then we take December to review all the projects, and then they would come to you in January. So I could see doing a similar thing. So if projects came in July, we would take August to review them, bring them to you in your...
And my concern with that, it would be that they don't have to wait like we're hearing about permits and that kind of thing, that we can move on with it.
Yes, now, any issues that they may have with supply chain issues or permitting...
But I mean in-house, so
Right.
if they come with a project and it's approved, let's get it out.
Yes, we work to do that. I will say that I believe our permitting process is very good, especially compared to other cities I'm familiar with. Our timelines are shorter than all of our peer cities we compare with. I know that sometimes a project individually will get delayed for one reason or another, but on the whole, we process permits and project approvals fairly quickly here at the city.
And then city council has to approve all of our recommendations?
That's right. So normally it would be, like I say, an application comes in, it would probably hit you guys probably 2 months later, and then council the following month. So we're looking at about a 4-month process. That's really no different than what it is today, but today they actually have to wait. So now they would have to wait till November to apply, then it would take 3 to 4 months.
Can they go ahead and apply but it won't be presented until January? I mean, if I had one for November and I turned it in today, would y'all just hold it until November?
Typically, no, and part of the reason is just for processing. We don't want it to get set aside and forget about it, so that's why we have an application window, has to be submitted.
Okay.
Now, having said that, I think if it gets submitted, we won't say, oh, here, no, you can't do that. We'll probably hold on to it.
Gotcha.
But technically, there is a window within which it has to be submitted. But again, this proposal would remove that window for the north.
But so city council could see one every couple months. Basically, if we had them coming in, we approved them every couple of months.
Right, for the north projects, exactly.
Okay.
I believe that's it for our recommendations.
So you're recommending all those?
Yes, yes.
All right.
And the next step, we will, whatever you all decide today, we will take these changes as well as the ones you had already recommended. We'll take all those to city council probably next month.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second, and then we'll ask for questions? We have a motion to accept these policy changes? Well, I'll make it. I'm allowed to make a motion, I think. I'll
Yes.
make a motion, we accept these changes. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Dudley, thank you. All right. Any questions or comments? You know, this is always a moving target with policies and things of this nature, and it frustrates me. And I understand we need to do it, but again, I want an overriding umbrella, at least from this commission, is that we're user-friendly. Let's do whatever it takes to be user-friendly, because it's frustrating at best through a city process. And I understand we got to have it, but we've got to be user-friendly to our, quote, customers. And so that's what I encourage our city folks to do. So, all right, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hear none. Next item.
Next item, this is speaking of having available funds in the north and city staff looking at ideas for projects. This is something that came up considering authorizing maintenance funds for North TIRZ maintenance contract to include maintenance of landscaping, weeds, trash, and similar things for the North TIRZ area. And I'll go into a little more detail. And so it would set aside funding out of the north money, and we're really, you'll see the numbers there, we're really not talking about a huge amount given that we have $2 million. But it would be basically for city parks crews to periodically come and pick up trash, trim trees, remove weeds, those kinds of things in the north. There would be upfront equipment costs of about $35,000, and then annual operating costs that would recur every year of about $52,000. I think, actually in your, I believe if you picked up the information that we provided at the back of the room, there is a kind of a detailed breakdown of where those numbers came from. I don't know if any of you don't have it. Brian can probably get you
Brian's got them.
a copy. But basically, it just breaks down those. And so just briefly, what that would include is trash service and blowing and sweeping sidewalks in the streets 4 times a week. And then weed control, minor pruning, and just general maintenance of like the irrigation once a week. A major tree trimming, once a year. And then irrigation and maintenance of most of the landscaping on North Chadron, for example, has underground irrigation, and it would just be checking that and maintaining it.
Who's doing this right now?
They are, but not on a regular schedule. They'll come out if we call them and say, hey, we think we've got a problem.
They being whom?
I'm sorry, the city parks staff. This would have identified. It wouldn't actually hire a person, but it would be certain crews that do these things. They would be dedicated to those functions for so many hours every week.
So is this a way to maybe create new jobs and maybe give the people working for the city a little bump in the raise? Is this why we would be doing this, or?
Well,
which I'm for. I
yeah,
I know those guys. I mean, they work hard.
Well,
and, so
that could be a side benefit, but the reason we're doing it is not to give parks more funding or to do what this came out of was some discussions at those town hall meetings of just generally what can we do in the north. We talked about streetscaping and sidewalks. We also talked about going door to door to the businesses to encourage them to improve their properties. But one of the items that was discussed was just some general, there's blowing trash, there's weeds, where the city planted shrubs along Chadburn. And so this was identified as we could put a small amount of money in the scheme of the TIRZ funding towards having dedicated people go out and do that on a regular basis. Whereas now, the trash pickup and weeding is very rare, if any. And like I said, the irrigation is when something breaks, we ask them to go out and fix it, but there's not a regular maintenance schedule that this would add.
Well, the question I have, is why we with the TIRZ money, whether it's north, south, or whatever, subsidizing or filling in what should, in my view, ought to be normal operating costs of the city in some departments. I mean, I don't view that as our role.
Well, I guess the way I would answer that is that's not something the city currently provides for any area of town, really. I mean, like the parks folks, they do that in the parks, but there's no one going up and down Chadburn Street or MLK picking up trash or doing any of that.
Well,
so this is using TIRZ funds to go above.
The West Loop. I look at trash and weeds and garbage all the time, but we don't have city folks out there cleaning. Obviously we don't in recent weeks or months, because
that's a whole other issue, because that's TxDOT property, and so they're responsible for that. But I guess the way I would describe it is this is using TIRZ money to go above and beyond what the city would normally do.
To Jim's point earlier that, you know, this is for tax incentive, to increase tax incentives, and even what we just passed on changing some stuff for the north, which I agree we need to be user-friendly, but I think we see an advantage here from what my, you know, outside view into inside is that the north has tons of money, but we don't know what's upcoming, we don't know what could happen up there, and I just don't want to just free-for-all spend it on stuff that doesn't do what our mission's for here.
And I will say this is something that you could back off of in future years. If, let's say, we have a whole lot of projects come in and we want to start funding those and the money starts going down, this is something we could back off of.
I don't see that happening. Once it's done, there's no backing off.
Yeah.
I do know MLK Park and Kirby Park are maintained extremely well. I've been up MLK like on Sunday morning and there comes a city truck picking up trash. So to me, that's already being done.
Well, it's largely, and I will say Carl White from Parks is here if you have any specific questions about the manpower or any of that. But their work is largely exclusive to the parks themselves. Again, we don't normally have city crews that go up and down the streets picking up trash. And in other cities, that's often done by like a downtown business association or something like that. So this would be above and beyond. If you all don't recommend this funding, honestly, this is just something that won't get done. And if that's your prerogative, that's fine. This was just one of the ideas that came out of those meetings.
My concern is $52,867 for annual operating costs. And how much is it going to be next year and the following year and the following year? Is that going to continue to go up, or are we putting that number as the amount we're going to do, period?
I think what Parks had recommended to us is that we maybe assume a 3 to 5% increase every year, which again it wouldn't be a huge increase, but that would be typical for equipment and supplies and labor costs that would go up yearly.
Well, do we have to make a 3 or 5 year commitment? Can we just say, all right, we're in for a year and see what our situation is?
You could. I might defer to Carl on that, on his thoughts. I know we, to the extent, again, we wouldn't necessarily be hiring new people necessarily, although it could include new folks.
Okay.
So, I mean, I agree with you, Jen. We should maybe say 1 year. Let's see the above and beyond. If it's really gonna challenge businesses to.
I just don't see that. I think that's business owner in front of your property. That's your own responsibility.
And we do that, like at the restaurant, we clean our own.
Yeah, I mean, I do too.
And that you're still doing upfront equipment costs. You're adding vehicles and things like that, so 1 year, you really wouldn't get the money you put into it out of it. It takes, I mean, you're adding equipment.
Yeah.
And is that equipment gonna be strictly dedicated to that zone? If so, if it's all over town, then that's not exactly right.
Well, let me ask this question, and I don't want to be pharisaical, whatever that means, but is this somewhere located in our mission statement that we can do this? I mean, don't we have an overriding, and I'm sure I've got as many files I've got, I can probably find something, but is this in our overall mission statement that we can supplement the city? I want weeds cut, I want trash picked up, clean, I want that all over our city.
Yeah.
But
I think the short answer is I would call it tangential to the primary focus, but it is an eligible expense. We already budget a small amount. Like I said, if they have to go out and repair the irrigation, or they need to go out and trim trees, or a car hits a tree and takes it out, they'll go out and replant. So we set aside money to do those kinds of things already. This would be stepping that up to just they go periodically. Now, after talking with Carl briefly, I will say we may want to ask you to table this. Their estimate included all of Chadburn, which includes some of the south, obviously. So we either need to go back and rethink this and only budget for what the cost would be for the north side, or again, this is all up to you, we could keep it in for all of Chadburn, but then some of this funding will have to come from the south.
Okay, John, real quick, would this include, because I know this, Western Skies, she told me, Jason, there's potholes, like, from the street to my parking, and a lot of customers complain. And she's like, I call the city, and they don't respond back. They say, yeah, we'll get to it. And one guy said, well, we're gonna start a street project here in 8 months, so hang in there. And she's like, okay, 8 months, hang in there. So would this, like, if, say, my parents get a pothole at the restaurant and we need would they do that? Would they be in charge of that?
This would not.
No.
That would typically be a streets department
Okay.
issue. And so this would really be, like I said, trash pickup, landscape maintenance, irrigation, that kind of thing. But I guess my question for you all is, like I said, I think we're going to recommend tabling this to go back and rework it a little bit.
Okay.
But if you all are not supportive at all, we won't even bother.
Well, as the chairman, I want to be supportive of everybody in the city and what you're doing and whatever. Again, but I just want to be faithful to our mission statement. And if this is in our mission statement that we can do this. And then secondly, we're not going to upset some people in the northern vote, North Chadron, that we're using these monies to pick up trash when they want it used for improving someone's facade or something.
I would use the analogy that the city used with their reasoning for not wanting to do finish the projects on the south was that it was a slippery slope. You do it once, you're gonna do it again. I would say this sounds the same thing. That we'll keep coming back. I mean, this won't be the end of it.
Well, and if they do the streetscape, or if there is something else proposed to this, I mean, there's gonna be a ton of trash pickup. It's gonna be landscaping all over to maintain. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I will say, the TIRZ Board in the past at least has made a commitment for when we put in new landscaping, we pay the water bill, for example. That's part of the budget. Now, again, it's just a couple $1,000s, but we pay the water bill for the irrigation. We do pay for trimming of trees or replacement of trees. Again, those are fairly small amounts because what we're talking about here is people going out weekly. And that is just as needed, but we do already commit to some of that sort of maintenance, again, as an as-needed basis. But I don't want to go back and rework these numbers. What I think I'm hearing is that you all aren't necessarily supportive of moving forward with this at all, so we can just drop it rather than go back and rework things.
Some other thoughts. What do y'all want to do? I mean,
Table it.
Table it.
You want to
Table it.
Table it or put it-
Let's table it and let them
bring up a
rethink it
motion.
and come back. But I think you've heard our concerns to a degree, and but Dudley's point's well made. I don't want to take on a project like this when.
That should come out of the maintenance
Yeah.
fund or
Yeah.
some other
Anyway,
fund.
let's table it.
I just want to clarify, though, I don't want to ask staff and the park staff to go back and spend a lot of time rethinking it. If you guys aren't supportive of doing it at all, we can just drop it at this point. So I guess that's my question for you all.
Tabling it to come up with other numbers doesn't do anything for me.
You just want
I don't
Cut it.
see a reason
Cut
to
it.
table it. I see,
Yeah.
we need to bring it up for a vote and see what.
well.
Is there
And I think we do have folks that like
Yeah.
to speak before you vote.
Okay. All right. Dale.
Yeah, I'd just like to shed a little bit of a different perspective possibly here. On a daily basis, we get phone calls because there's trash cans that are full in the downtown district. When downtown San Angelo initiated a trash can container project in 2007, we worked out a deal that with Republic, or at the time it wasn't Republic, but now it's Republic, and Republic services those as a contribution to downtown San Angelo, and we treat them accordingly as benefits for providing us that in-kind contribution for them. It's an in-kind contribution to us. And we are constantly bombarded, and I don't want to over-exaggerate it. We get phone calls about the trash that is flying around downtown because it's windy, and trash cans get filled pretty quickly sometimes, depending on what's going on in the downtown district. And so here recently, because of the streetscape, we created additional trash cans that now get filled up even quicker. I know I've had to call Street and Bridge and get help to get those trash cans serviced, because the city's doing it, not Republic. So I throw that out in relationship to some of the dynamics that are at play. The other thing that I hate doing this, but honestly, I have to say it. If you look at the city budget, 70% or maybe a little higher of city budget is going to pay city employees, salaries, fire department, and police department. So that leaves a very small amount of monies to address these type of issues that we are also concerned about and want addressed. So I just throw that out in relationship to trying to keep some perspective about what is being proposed here as far as trying to keep our city clean. And as hard as we try to keep it clean, it's still sometimes, and to be honest with you, I do get a lot of comments from people that come into town that say San Angelo is a really clean city compared to their place or some of their areas that they're visiting from. And so I'm encouraged that we are looking at it from this perspective and hoping that we could do something, since there is those funds available, and it's in the north. I'm hoping that we can get some from the south, but I just thought I'd share that.
I guess I'm so naive, it's pitiful. To me, there's a difference between, if I'm a business owner, whether it's in the north or south, I've got the responsibility based on, and I appreciate what was said. It's my responsibility to keep my property clean and pick up trash that might be in front of my business.
Yes, sir.
That's my responsibility, getting the trash can. Now, I am shocked
I agree
that
with
we
you,
don't
sir.
have anyone coming by in our city picking up that trash can.
Well,
That's what shocks me.
Yeah, again, the project that we initiated, we get Republic, and
Yeah,
they
but
come
that's-
in once
but
a
that's
week, and
because they're
and
being
we've had
gracious to you.
issues, Jim,
Yeah.
we've had issues. In the recent past, we've had issues because they missed a trash can or whatever, and so I have to call, because they call me, and I have to call Republic, and Republic comes, sends someone out. So it is an ongoing situation, and I see this as a light, in a sense, to be able to eliminate some of that, as far as keeping the city clean, and since we've got the funding available, that we would be able to provide that type of support for these areas that are highly trafficked areas.
John,
Well,
say the bridge, when they say the city, and I don't care if it's a text dot issue or whatever, like the bridge right there that kind of separates downtown entering the north, where all the homeless people are at. Are they gonna be cleaning that area too?
I'm sorry, that's over by my area.
Yeah, that is horrible.
there you go.
Are they gonna be cleaning that, or are they gonna be like, no, that's text dot, that's not the city?
Well, typically, we would not do anything on TxDOT right of way. We would need agreements with them to be able to do that, so we typically leave that to them, and we take care of our streets.
We're having some comments made back here. Yes, ma'am. Oh, go ahead. Okay, come ahead.
No, your turn.
Come ahead.
How are you, Board? My name's Mario Della O. I'm the Parks Manager with the City of San Angelo.
Okay.
So kind of piggybacking off of what Dale was talking about, when the improvements were made to the streetscapes downtown, it only makes sense that park staff go through and do the landscaping, because that's our expertise. The problem with that is there's no additional funding for people to do that. So basically what we're doing right now is we're taking staff that should be doing other things that they're tasked with on a normal everyday basis and having to pull them to go empty trash barrels, to clean the garden beds, to trim the trees, to pick up the trash, all that sort of thing. Basically it's taken away from other areas within the Parks Division. So I just kind of wanted to let that be known, kind of what's going on right now with that. So, for example, we went through on July 8th with 3 employees that did the weed eating from the curb line to the building, to the business owners, pretty much to their front steps. That took 3 employees, 7 man-hours each, 21 hours. We had a 4-man crew go out and do the weeding of the beds and general cleanup of the planters and things. That took 4 employees, 2.5 hours each, so roughly we're looking at 30 man-hours, to go through and clean that thing up. What we're asking for is pretty much to have one position, one person dedicated to doing that whole area. And I think that's the breakdown of what John presented earlier.
So it's to hire a new employee?
So that we approached it that way with budget, and I think they were on board, but it was all in accordance with to what you guys thought about it.
John, didn't you say some of that money's already getting funded towards that way, and their percentage that you said is already going to do some of this out of North and South?
Well, again, we budget, and I don't have the budget numbers in front of me, but it's only $2,000-3,000 just for going out to repair a broken irrigation line, or to the business owner complains that the shrub has overgrown the sidewalk and they go out and trim it, but only on an as needed. We call them and do it 2 or 3 times a year, not on a regular basis.
Okay.
What I would like, and what I would like is for us, what is our mission? Is that something we would do? Because I recall hearing something just watching Channel 17 where Bob Solis was talking about they were using some of the funding from HUD, from other places to help with salaries and whatnot. And I think we probably really need to watch that. So I want to know really what should we legally do?
Well, and let me answer that in 2 ways, because you asked 2 different questions. What can we do and what should we do? Can you do this? The answer is yes. Should you is a policy question that you all need to answer. Many cities do things like this. In fact, some cities use TIRZ funding to pay a portion of salaries of folks like Nolan and I. Now, we don't have the level of funding that, that cities like Dallas or Houston might have in a TIRZ zone, but that kind of expense is an eligible TIRZ expense. But on the other hand, we have not done this before. It would be breaking new ground, and really, like I said earlier, the only reason we're looking at this is because we've got $2 million, and so we were brainstorming what are things we could do to help the North with some of that money. And this was one of the ideas that came up in that town hall meeting, and so we're bringing it for your consideration. Again, if you don't think this is an appropriate use of TIRZ funds for San Angelo, that's perfectly okay for you to tell us that.
Well, what if I'd say this, why can't, rather than just table it, why can't we remand this to the city council and ask them what do they think about this? Because personally, I'm shocked that we don't have something in our city budget to do, because, and I want you to know I appreciate you and your folks.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
But I'm shocked that this item has to even appear before us in what I view as our mission statement. Now, if the city council will say, yes, TIRZ Board, this is something you need to consider seriously, and I guess I'll take another look at it. But
I think we could do that. We could take it as a discussion item.
But just tell them that the chairman of the TIRZ Board is shocked that our city does, because they don't like me anyway, so it doesn't make any difference.
But Jen, especially because 52,000, and we're gonna pay it like that.
Yeah.
And we couldn't help those people 5 months ago
No,
with that.
right.
Now, and I'm like, I know those city guys, they hard workers. I wouldn't hire someone. I would ask them if they really want the 52,000. I mean, why don't give y'all a little bit of raise? And, you know, we all do a little extra during these times.
Right.
You know, we're penny pinching, stuff like that.
Well, Terry had a
So-
good point though, too. Is that pickup gonna only stay in the north tier zone and not ever travel into the, I mean,
Well, how
just-
about everywhere the rest of us live?
yeah, I mean, that's just,
The
there's some
problem with
questions.
that is who carries the insurance to do that? There's only a few landscape companies in town that carry the insurance that the city, you know, requires to do that kind of stuff. So your mom and pop shop can't come and say, hey, I will bid that out competitively because they can't hold the insurance.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, let's have some more comments. Yeah,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
ma'am.
Thank y'all for y'all's
Thank
time.
you. We appreciate you.
I was at the town hall meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you speak in the mic?
I'm just getting nervous, sorry. I don't need a microphone.
Well, it's on YouTube.
Oh,
also,
gosh,
so-
that's right.
Sorry.
Anyway, I was at the town hall meeting, and I'm a little confused about something. We're spending money that's maybe going to be already spent, like 1 point something million dollars. Correct me if I'm wrong about from this street to 29th or whatever, that they're gonna be doing in the next 8 months, starting January. So
That
we
was-
are already possibly lowered the budget significantly. Now we're gonna lower it some more.
Probably what they're trying to do.
Well,
Right, so I'm just kind of confused, and I'm not, it is not just this in general. It's as a whole. I give you $2 million, but I just proposed, as a city council, to spend 1.5 on a project that's going to take how many years?
Well, let me clarify that, because that was brought up by the mayor as a possible project.
Right.
But that
It
has
hadn't
not
come
even
to
been
us.
before this
No, it
board. And this
hasn't.
board has to
No.
approve it.
Okay.
And then city council would have to approve it as well. And so
Can
that
they
is.
bypass tiers? Because it
I
seems like
hope
that's
not.
what's being kind of done in a
I
I
hope
way.
believe
not.
the TIRZ Board has to make a recommendation. I don't know for sure if the city
Okay.
council can just overrule it if they vote no. but-
Because in an objective way, as I'm looking at it and hearing that what y'all propose sometimes gets kind of
That's what happened.
worked
last
around,
week.
right, it's worked around to where it's like, what's the purpose? And I'm just trying to find, I'm north, and I'm just saying, the proposal was to spend so much money, Dale, am I correct, on upgrading the north from whatever street?
That's a
Proposal, right, but it's not come into play yet?
No.
Okay, so if you.
idea, like this is an idea.
Okay, and it goes before, that's all I'm trying to understand, because if that's an idea that's supposed to come back before.
Well, if they don't, let me put it this way. As far as I'm concerned, if that doesn't come to us for approval, our party's over.
Okay,
It better come to us.
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
it. I'm not trying to object or have, I just
Yeah.
want to understand
Yeah,
it.
and
Okay.
it has to, by state law, come to this board for a
Okay, so it
recommendation.
has to come before them first?
No, it
Okay.
has not.
And that helps me understand
Yeah.
it, because when you go through that and you're sitting there, I'm not sure my
Yeah.
place yet, and I'm trying to understand it from the outside looking in.
No, well, I appreciate you bringing it up, but
That has to go before y'all.
it better come here.
Okay, and because I'm sitting there thinking, running numbers
Yeah.
in my head, saying, well, if that's gonna cost that much, then that
Yeah.
leaves, and it's just one of those subjective budgets, it's not one of those.
But
official.
also, the budget replenishes every October.
Right,
So
and
it's
that's what I
not gonna
didn't-
replenish it. I mean, there's still gonna be plenty of money.
Okay.
And also, while we're making these comments, in 2008, we did a campaign, TIRZ, not we, TIRZ did a campaign on the north. We sent out flyers, we sent out letters. We had TIRZ board members go out and knock on doors and say, hey, you guys, you've got all this money, use it. We got 2 or 3 applications. Nothing really happened. We had another campaign in 2016 or 17, very similar to the one I just described. A few people applied, but no, we still have a $2 million surplus. And in my opinion, for a government to just hold $2 million doing nothing is irresponsible, in my opinion. And so using and not expending the funds for people that will hopefully apply and hopefully someday we'll get some additional applicants for funding that is sitting there, those $2 million are doing nothing for no one. And so at least these ideas that are being presented Our idea is to spend a few dollars out of the 2 million. These are few compared to what's in the balance. And in October, remember, it's gonna replenish, and you're gonna have probably a balance somewhere of about $2.7 to $2.9 million after it replenishes in October. To me, this is penance, and we're looking for ways to utilize this money to do some good. Why not?
Well, Dale, I appreciate your comments, but I'm real sensitive to where we are with the city council right now. And,
I understand.
and I'm not really
I understand.
leaning toward doing anything with that $2 million. And you're making the case why we wanted to take that $2 million and combine it with what we had in South,
Right.
and divide it up or do something, rebalance it where we had money to use, but,
Right.
you know, they
It's a
didn't want to
business.
do that,
And
so.
let me,
so-
if you
Well,
don't mind.
go ahead and make your comment. I don't want to
Let me-
rush you, but we got
No,
other
that's
things
okay.
we need
No,
to do.
let me just make this. Downtown San Angelo initiated the TIRZ. The reason why was to create incentives to restart downtown San Angelo, the revitalization of downtown San Angelo. It was set up as one tier zone. It became a political football, and it became two zones. The idea and the thought was, as we've already discussed, there was going to be some equal funding because of the Walmart and Shannon. Well, the dynamics changed. We have to live with that reality. But we're all one San Angelo, and we're trying to all make San Angelo a better place. And unfortunately, in the North Tiers, there's been a very minor in consideration of what's out there, requests for funds to be spent. Yeah, I wish they would. I wish they would come in and say, let's make that North Chadburn corridor the best corridor it can be. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened, and it's been since 2007 that this has been lingering out there. So I just throw those comments out.
With all due respect, Dale, we all know where your heart is.
Yeah.
It's downtown San
Right, of
Angelo.
course, yes.
I will tell you that, as we all know, yes, we've seen this past week that the city council has a final decision. And the North representative and most of the people in the North don't want that. Yes, we're all one city, but as I stated earlier, the reason being, what will happen, and history dictates that the North will totally be left out and someday it may happen, as, like I said, council people change and all of that. But we certainly know where your heart is.
Right.
Me representing North, I was good with the compromise, but I am not good with joining the two.
I have a comment as well. Just because I went out and campaigned to the north. I'm in the south, but I campaigned in the north to try to get people to understand the money was there, things to do with it. I think the town hall meetings did a wonderful thing and actually fired up people because, like I said, they didn't really know what they had until somebody tried to take it. And so sometimes it's just getting people to engage, and then step by step, if you change some of these policies that make it easier for people to get on board, I think we have to allow the process to take care of itself so that it slowly moves through. That way, more people have the ability to get in, and then maybe we can just get the whole shooting match, and then we can talk about the next step. But I think first step is to make sure that we capitalize on these town hall meetings so that everyone that had something to say, now you need to put up, let's go. That money's there. You can't sit on it. Let's do something with it.
Well, I hope that fire lasts, because, we've done everything,
But we
like
never
I said,
did it
I've been
that
here
way.
on since
It never-
2016, and,
Right,
we've
right.
sent postcards, we send letters,
Right.
even I'll go talk to these people, say, hey, come on, there's this much money, okay, but everybody's just timid,
But
so
it
what?
never came to a head until those town hall
Hadn't
meetings.
been working so far. Well, John, I don't want to totally table this, but I'd like to remand it to the city council or someone to give us some guidance on it, because I'm sensitive to the balance in that north. I don't want to casually I don't care if it's 50,000 or 100,000. I don't want to casually mess with those monies without some now overriding guidance, because the city council is going to second guess us. They're going to question and you know, so, you know, that's just the way it is. So I would say run it past them, give us some guidance. If they say, yeah, y'all need to, we would support you doing it, then I'll be the first one to make the motion. But I'm not going through what I went through last week. I got too mad sitting there. And,
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
yeah.
I understand that who set up the boundaries for TIRZ? That state mandated?
Yes.
Well, the
Because-
state sets the parameters for what, you know, you can only include so much residential, there's a limit to size and that sort of thing. But the boundaries were established locally, and maybe Dell knows more than I do.
Yeah, so part of the requirement when we applied for the TIRZ, of course, and remember, we had to go to city to get the city to say yes. We want TIRZ to be established. So when that was done, we had to hire a company out of Austin, a consultant, to come in and who does this for the state to certify and qualify our TIRZ zone. And that's how it was established.
And the reason I'm asking, I grew up or was born on 2nd Street. This area was predominantly the black community. And coming up as a child, almost 66, Harris Avenue was the dividing line for south and north.
Right.
So, I mean,
Well,
and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, technically speaking, it really is, it is Harris because, sorry, Beauregard, because North Chadburn starts at Beauregard and
And that would have certainly been beneficial for some of the funding in the north.
that's correct,
zone.
that's correct. But that was how the boundaries were established because we had to hire a consultant. The consultant came in and said, in order for you to be in compliance to the TIRZ mandate, these are the boundaries that you can establish.
Do you remember what they established us off of? Was it tax income or what was it? 'Cause
There's
it's changed
multiple,
since 2007.
There's multiple variables that they look at that they have to benchmark. John mentioned one of them. There's only a percentage. I don't want to say what percentage because I don't know. I don't remember. But there's a percentage that it can only be residential. I mean, there's only a limit on how much can be residential within a TIRZ zone. So that's one benchmark, and there's others that they look at. So that's the way it occurred. And at the time, and I wasn't here, but at the time, we became aware of the fact that Walmart was going to be built on 29th Street. And so if we could get the TIRZ set up by then, before that, and establish that benchmark of what the value of that property was at that time, the increase was going to be substantial once Walmart went in.
Can those boundaries that have been set, can they shift? Is that
I don't-
something that can be done by the city or no?
The short answer is no. The longer answer is there's a way to amend the boundaries, but then the tax increment starts on that date that you amend the boundaries. That's actually been looked at by this board a couple of times in the past 10 years. And every time the board and the council
It's
says,
hard.
no, we don't want to mess with the boundaries.
It's hard.
You don't want to do
Yeah.
that. That would screw everything
Yeah,
up.
it's hard.
But I will say this, we advocated for trying to increase the southern zone further south, down, if we could even have included the Walmart that was going to be built on Jackson, but we were way too late in the ballgame. We found out about it too late. And so that was a done deal, and we could never, it wouldn't have done us any
Yeah, that's
good to
what
do
I'm saying.
that.
Would-
So,
They go either way.
I would think, I hear what you said, John and Dale, I think somewhere down the line, it might be beneficial if this board did take that up, because you look at what Palmer Feed did, you look at what Paul Jost did, there's so much money that has already been spent, that was spent out of the south zone, that could have been the north zone,
right.
so.
All right.
Okay, folks, we got to keep marching on. We'll be here past midnight. Item number 10.
Okay. The last item that I have is just an update of the ongoing and completed projects since our last board meeting. We currently have 6 active projects in the North TIRZ, listed there, and 10 active projects in the South TIRZ, and with the recent approval of the 416 South Oaks at the last council meeting, that would make that total in the TIRZ South actually be 11 projects. So I'm going to give you all an overview of our completed projects that we have had close out since the last time that I updated the board. We'll start with the north. We have 2302 North Bryant, which is Shine Bright Lube and Wash. They applied for facade improvements, asbestos inspection, paving, and landscaping. We awarded a $75,000 grant, and their business is vehicle maintenance and auto detailing. The next is 2934 North Chadron Dollar General. They were facade, paving, and landscaping, another $75,000 grant in the north. And it is, of course, a Dollar General franchise, a small convenience store. 3151 North Bryant, Huddle House, facade improvements, $75,000 grant. It is a franchise of a breakfast chain restaurant, and it is also tied to an address 3251, which is the larger Kent Quick Travel Center, which this board will remember was not only a $75,000 grant for facade improvements, but we also awarded up to $263,840 in property tax reimbursements. The next project is 2320 North Chadburn, which is Furman Lucio and Son Roofing. They asked for $9,900 in facade improvements, and it is a family-owned roofing company. It's a little before and after of Tritex Fence Company, facade improvements. 216 West 3rd, WAP Properties LLC, was $36,000. It was evenly distributed, $12,000 to each category of facade, paving, and landscaping. And it's, of course, a new warehouse and some paving and landscaping for Palmer Feed. Moving on to the TIRZ South, we have 40 West Tuick, which is Diamond L Enterprises. They have the building that we call the Spur Building. They had a $28,000 incentive to install a fire sprinkler system, which is shown there. And of course, 23 West Beauregard, Urban Salt Restaurant, which was a $12,000 incentive for a new restaurant facade improvements.
I want to make a comment about that. If any of you haven't eaten there, you need to go do that. It's an experience. They've done a great job.
And that is my update on completed projects. I just wanted to run through those for the board rather quickly. And
Well, thank
if
you.
you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
You're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I hate to backtrack, but did y'all take any action on the last item?
I think it was just general consensus of the
Okay.
board to take it to city council to get their
Yeah.
feedback. as a
Okay.
discussion
I
item,
use the
so-
legal term,
so no-
remand it to the city council, but I want to hear from them. I want some overall strategic direction on that, because I don't want to step into what I've been dealing with in the last couple of months.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss a motion
Yeah.
or
You're right.
anything
No,
like that.
No, we didn't. I just made a direction to Mr. James.
Sounds good.
Take it back to the city council, let the city council give us direction. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you're ready for the director's report, I don't really have anything to report. I do have something here for Dudra, and just wanted to, just wanted to mention, it's been mentioned a couple times, but this is her last meeting, so I just wanted to say thanks from the staff. She's been a long-serving member on this board, as evidenced by her being term limited out from serving again, but we do appreciate everything she's done for the board and all of her service and attendance. She rarely misses meetings, and so we appreciate everything you've done for the board.
Well, Dudra and I go way back for about 30 years, so she's still a work in progress, or I am one. I don't know which one it is, but
Mr. Cummins.
yeah, Jim.
That's all I had.
Is that all you got? All right, number 12, that possible future items, well, we just leave that up to Mr. James unless y'all have something and hopefully we'll get some direction back from the city council on that item. Next meeting, September 27th. Folks, I appreciate all of you and thank you for putting up with me because I sometimes get carried away. My wife continues to coach me on that. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Appreciate all of you.